ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Pearlman book, I Am Convinced, is an attempt to rewrite Tupac's legacy as he and some other people want to. We know Tupac, his lived life, the interviews. Jeff Pearlman now says that somebody by the name of Seth Bloom had an uncompromising relationship with Tupac in school at the Baltimore School of the Arts. Ladies and gentlemen, that can be nothing further from the truth. Oh, one person he didn't interview was the person who brought us the pictures of Tupac at the Baltimore School of the Arts. Jada Pinkett. Why didn't he interview Jada? Because guess what? Lies run sprints, but the truth runs marathons. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into some of the straight game.
Life is like a game of cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy Delray Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor, click on the thumbs up button, ladies and gentlemen. Like I always said, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do. And like I said, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of the straight game, please do me a favor and click on what appears to be the little bell notification right below this video. Ladies and gentlemen, this one right here, this interview right here, I'm going to deal with it as tastefully as I possibly can under the circumstances, and it's really sad. Jeff Pearlman is out here masquerading as someone who respected Tupac. He never met Tupac. Every day there's a new headline from this book of fiction, if you will, that alleges something more egregious each and every day, and trying to sell this book of fiction. And the reason why I call it a book of fiction is because when you deal with facts and things that we knew about Tupac Shakur, somebody by the name of Seth Bloom. Now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if Jada Pinkett wrote something in her book, Jeff Pearlman said that he read her book. So a lot of the people that Jada Pinkett may have wrote about in her book, Jeff Pearlman read her book to get these names and then to go and try to find out what he could about these various people. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if Seth Bloom exists, like I said, once again. But what I do know is this, and you have to understand that Seth Bloom never said any of the things that he alleged that Jeff Pearlman is alleging when Tupac was alive. This is the first time, like I said, I've heard of Seth Bloom. Or the young lady also, let me look this up, ladies and gentlemen, real fast. We do nothing but research over here. Yes. Yes. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen. So there was a video, there's an article. And like I said, people can cover what they want to cover. Tupac wore skirts with pom-poms and kissed boys, claims new biography, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this. I need you to understand, out of all of the books and the things that have been written about Tupac and all of the things that have been said about Tupac, it is this guy here now, Jeff Pearlman, who's going to bring us the different lives of Tupac Shakur. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that it is fiction. It is fiction. And like I said, once again, Jeff Pearlman tried to interview me. I like to start off by letting people know that Jeff Pearlman tried to interview me, and I turned down his interview. Because I felt he had some other ulterior motive as to why he wanted to, talk, and act as if he was concerned and he was a fan of Tupac. Simply not true. This is an opportunist. This is an opportunity to be able to try to capitalize off of one of the greatest artists of all time. This is the opportunity to try to recreate a new narrative from someone who never met Tupac. Like I said, you can take it from a grain of salt. And I don't know if because he's a guy who wrote in sports or because I don't know, like I said, when he sits down, it seems like, he sits down with these various YouTubers and podcasters and he attempts to speak on Tupac using stories that were already available, ladies and gentlemen. As a matter of fact, one of the young ladies, I'm going to give you her name right now. One of the young ladies that he alleged that he talked to actually did an interview with the Art of Dialogue. And none of the things that she's saying, Jeff Pearlman is a Tatiana Bliss. If I'm not mistaken, the young lady that the Art of Dialogue interviewed, like I said, another peer. Remember, Tupac is one of the few boys wearing pink eyeshadow, black nail polish, and a bleach in his hair. His look was shaped by necessity. Listen, necessity, right? And creativity. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share something with you right now to show you that that's not true. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this. Right here. This picture right here. I want you to pay attention to what I'm about to show you. This is Tupac at the Baltimore School of the Arts. Let me down this other one. And I'm going to show you something, ladies and gentlemen. You see this picture right here? Right? Does Tupac have any black nail polish on his fingers? Does Tupac have any black nail polish on his fingers? He does not, ladies and gentlemen. Tupac has on what appears to be a white sweater, right? This is at the Baltimore School of the Arts. These are real live pictures from the 80s. Look at those sisters with those 80s hairdos, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to understand something. I call this attempted rewrite of a legend proof that Tupac. I'm showing you pictures. I don't know if Jeff Pearlman showed you any pictures of Tupac at the Baltimore School of the Arts. This is from the ball. You see no black fingernail polish, no white. Bleached hair, no pink eyeshadow, no none of those things, ladies and gentlemen. This is fiction. And the reason why I say that is because, once again, Jada Pinkett, who Tupac spoke highly of, and she has talked about Tupac and shared letters and things from Tupac that people didn't even know existed, ladies and gentlemen. Exhibit number 1, Tupac has no eyeshadow on. He's hugging two beautiful black women, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I'm talking about pictures, evidence, proof. You see none of the things that were described in his book. It's not true. He can't show us any pictures of Tupac in anything that was described in his book. This is for shock value, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, people can say what they want to say. Seth Bloom, don't know who he is. This is the young man who's basically saying that him and Tupac had some kind of close, intense relationship, ladies and gentlemen. We have never heard this in with Tupac's 25 years and the 30 some odd years since Tupac has passed, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you what was attempted, and I'm gonna show you this one. But before I go there, let me go here too. Let me do this right here. As you see that one right there. Here is another photo, ladies and gentlemen. This photo here is famous. This photo here is of Jada Pinkett in the middle, Tupac on the right, and another young man, I don't know who he is, on the left, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies, do Tupac have any eyeshadow in his eyes? Any pink eyeshadow, anything like that? Any strip going down his hair? Tupac has on what seems to be a jacket, a collared shirt with a scarf around his neck. He looks like a highly intelligent young black man on the quest to be what he was, a legend. Point blank, period. You see Jada with the 80s hairdo, you know what I mean? Look like she got the turtleneck on with the striped shirt, fly and classy as ever. You know what I mean? Doing the 80s baby thing, right? Once again, ladies and gentlemen, these photos here are proof positive that what Jeff Pearlman is writing in his book is fiction. Like I said, they can parade him around on as many podcasts if they will, right? If you want to hear anything about Tupac and the left, we did the interview on Billy Garland over on the Art of Dialogue, ladies and gentlemen, and you can go check that out. Ladies and gentlemen, you see no pink eyeshadow, you see no hairdo with no blonde stripe or bleach stripe in his hair, or none of those things. Like I said, these are unfounded revelations made up by people who Jeff Pearlman says he interviewed. You know, we don't know anything about that. Like I said, also as a new revelation, remember the song "Brenda's Got a Baby," and in the end of so I don't know if Tupac was mixing fact with fiction. Like I said, from my understanding of the "Brenda's Got a Baby" song, Tupac said a prostitute found slain, and Brenda's her name. She got a baby, right? So now, you know, Jeff Pearlman has made this huge discovery in saying he linked the young man back with his mother. That was the woman that was Brenda, that Tupac named Brenda in his song. I don't know if that's true either. And the reason why I say that is because the lady that Tupac rapped about, like I said, I don't know if he mixed fact with fiction there. But like I said, once again, at the end of the song, Tupac says, prostitute found slain. And Brenda's the name. She got a baby. Right? So that tells me the person that Tupac was rapping about, right, was ultimately found deceased, if you will, from that perspective. So like I said, we're going to have to speak with this young man and his mother with this rekindling relationship that Jeff Pearlman claims that he got them back together through a DNA specialist, if you will, ladies and gentlemen. We just don't know. We can't go on that. Like I said, you've seen the pictures of Jada Pinkett and Tupac at the Baltimore School of the Arts, and none of what Jeff Pearlman has described in his book is a representation of those pictures, ladies and gentlemen. From the fingernails, from the clothes, from the attempted mischaracterization of who Tupac was, right? Like I said, once again, you have to understand what's being done, right? Like I said, you see the title of the video, Tupac. And if you look at the thumbnail, you're going to see a few other photos, right? From the Baltimore School of the Arts. And none of those photos are a representation of nothing, absolutely positively nothing that is described in this last outtake to run through the media with this story of Tupac. What does it say again? What does it say? Tupac who wore skirts with pom-poms, ladies and gentlemen, and kissed boys, claims new biography. This is an attempt to just assassinate Tupac's character, point blank. If you could to put it no other way, It's simply that. And then another thing, like I said, a lot of the family members, you see, Jeff Pearlman came as this, I'm an award-winning writer, best-selling author, and I'm writing a book about Tupac and all of this and all of that, right? He came with that nice little savvy little thing. The family didn't know that he was going to do this, right? You give somebody an interview, and like I told you, when he came to me for an interview, I told him no, and I felt something. It was something that I felt, right? It was just something that I felt. Like I said, and another thing, he wasn't compensating anybody. He wanted everything for free. Once again, I don't work for free from that perspective. I work for me and my family. You know what I mean? And people that I deal with who know how I deal, and we deal on the level where we're bringing value to the table about what we're doing. You see what I'm saying? So now, let me get into it like this. So the situation here, and so they started off and said people in who knew Tupac in high school loved the way he dressed. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. I'm going to show you just the contrast of what's being said and what's really real. So the people who knew Tupac in high school loved the way he dressed, especially at the Baltimore School of the Arts. Of Jeff Pearlman told all hip hop, ladies and gentlemen, he would show up with nail polish on his fingers. He had a peroxide yellow strip running through his hair. He spray painted his jeans, and he would show up most days, listen, ladies and gentlemen, most days drinking water out of a baby bottle, ladies and gentlemen. Let me show y'all something. Does that look like what Jeff Pearlman described? Or what was described to him, ladies and gentlemen? That doesn't look. That's Tupac at the Baltimore School of Arts, standing next to his good friend, who's a star in her own right, Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett, ladies and gentlemen. Let me show you the other one again, ladies and gentlemen. See, because once again, I'm going to show you something else. Remember, what's that? Showed up with nail polish in his fingers. This is another one with Tupac Shakur, Baltimore School of the Arts, with two beautiful young women, ladies and gentlemen. Is there any black, pink, or yellow, red fingernail polish? Right? Didn't look like Tupac had any holes in his jeans. The other picture, you can actually look at the picture on the front of the post that when I posted the video, when you see it on there, on the screenshot of the post for the video, actually, you'll see Tupac in this same picture with these other young ladies, and he's grabbing his genitals as he's standing next to the young ladies, like, get the Bozak. That was a hip hop song from back in the day, ladies and gentlemen, right? You don't see any black or purple or pink or none of that stuff that's described in this. Once again, lady, this is these are exhibits number 1 and 2 in regards to what that is. There are more, but like I said, I'll keep it to 2. The ones that really describe. You don't see any makeup on Tupac's face. You see none of those things. Ladies and gentlemen, this is fiction that Jeff Pearlman has wrote. This is not based on truth and fact and the evidence. And this is the reason why I bring you the pictures, because I'm going to bring you something that when you stand on what he's saying, this is a total contrast to what he's trying to put up. That shot that he's trying to put up is going to get blocked like the Kembe Mutombo. The wagging of the finger. Oh, no. Not here today. Once again, ladies and gentlemen. And so as it goes on, Jeff Pearlman said, I asked around, excuse me, who's this crazy boy, right? The classmate LaDonna Bonner recalled, if you will. Like I said, once again, if these names are names of people who did go to school with Tupac, like I said, it's 9 times out of 10 that Jeff Pearlman got him from Jada Pinkett's book, which he said he read from that perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Tatiana Bliss was somebody that Art of Dialogue actually interviewed, and she said another peer, remember Tupac is one of the few boys wearing pink eyeshadow, black nail polish, and bleach in his hair. Ladies and gentlemen, I just showed you the pictures. You've seen none of that. Like I said, Tatiana did not say any of these things from what I believe from the Art of Dialogue, if you will. He has the video. Like I said, once again, you got to understand this. right? So like I said, Jeff Pearlman was listening to all of our interviews, right? Over there on the Art of Dialogue, collecting data, you know what I mean? He figured like, well, if they can do it, I know I can do it. I'm a journalist, right? Nobody, like I said, once again, I've never claimed to be a journalist. I'm like I said, a platinum songwriter artist. I got 6 albums of my own. I'm award winning in my own right. I don't need to latch on to anything. I knew Tupac personally, but let me keep him with the story, ladies and gentlemen. So this is alleged to be one of Tupac Shakur's closest friends at the school was Seth Bloom, who is a self-professed, right, from what this reads, because I don't want nobody to take me out of context, a gay theater student from suburban Baltimore. Bloom recalled their friendship as intense, right, and experimental, noting the school's sexuality open environment, ladies and gentlemen. Pause. I've never heard of Seth Bloom. Seth Bloom ain't never said nothing about this when Tupac was alive, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Nothing near this, right? So now, like I said, and so the incendiary talk about Tupac being something that Tupac didn't claim, right? And did not represent in life, ladies and gentlemen, is total disrespect. Jeff Pearlman shouts out Yasmin Fuller's name. Like I said, I don't know Yasmin. I don't know. I really don't know. I hope you're watching this, but I just, like I said, I really don't know. So at a class party, Bloom said Shakur kissed him during a game of Truth or Dare, right? So he did, Bloom recalled, he kissed me. We kind of vamped up. Our lips touched. I know I wasn't the only boy Tupac kissed, ladies and gentlemen. He's making an accusation. He's not the only boy. He said, I know I wasn't the only boy Tupac kissed when we were alone. I always felt the thing. Maybe Seth Bloom felt the thing, but he can't describe what Tupac was feeling because Tupac never elaborated on anything like that, ladies and gentlemen. To me, my personal opinion, this is fiction, ladies and gentlemen. This is in order to try to recreate and rewrite history involving Tupac Shakur through a guy by the name of Jeff Pearlman, who never met Tupac. Like I said once again. So, and then Jeff Pearlman actually puts in his 2 cents. Listen, I want you to understand me. Pearlman says, listen, y'all, you got to understand this. Pearlman doesn't see Shakur's sexual exploration as controversial. What is he talking about? He never met Tupac. He didn't see anything that happened, right? This is hearsay. This is somebody else saying something that now claims to have a close relationship to Tupac. Like I said, if he, like I said, I don't know if it's in Jada's book, but like I said, if he's saying something that somebody said, this is hearsay, right? And then Pearlman goes on to say, as for sexuality, I would say there was some experimentation at the School for the Arts. He wasn't there. Once again, alluding to something, taking something from someone who we don't know, who never made these comments or characterizations of Tupac when he was alive. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, according to me and what I'm thinking, it's fiction. I'm sure I'm going to take you back. Just like this right here. Watch this. Look, just like this right here. Just like this statement right here. This is a statement. This is a quote from Jeff Pearlman. Tupac death is the dumbest shit of all time because he died. Because all the guys sold him this lifestyle idea, but he wasn't it. He couldn't fight. He had no athleticism. He didn't know how to shoot a gun. He wasn't that guy, but he started to believe it. He 100% method acted it, ladies and gentlemen. None of what is said in this statement is true. By pure fact of evidence, Tupac at the gun range, Tupac in Vegas, right? Tupac, when you talk about the fact that just who he was, Tupac when I seen him at Bowie. Tupac when I seen him at Peanuts with the pistol on him, you know me, ready for whatever, but was on some player shit. You understand what I'm saying? Point blank, period. So like I said, none of what Jeff Pearlman said in this statement is true from somebody who never, how can somebody make a statement like this who never met Tupac? Point blank, period. Right? Once again, let me go back to this. And like I said, I got to give you the evidence, right? Because I don't want to sound crazy. I want to be in the moment of proof and fact and pictures and documentation. Look, this is another statement that he made. It's so funny. First of all, he wasn't shot 6 times. Nobody said he was shot 6 times, right? He was shot 5 times. And then Jeff Pearlman goes on to say that was a myth. How in the hell would he know? He wasn't there. He wasn't there. Like I said, I know where he got it from. He wasn't there. I know where he got the that police report from. Right? Right. But see, people are now trying to hold their hand tight to the vest, but it's okay because we understand who you are too. Listen, he said that he was shot 3 times. Ladies and gentlemen, what proof did Jeff Pearlman offer? None. 0. And then he went on to say that Tupac shot himself. Ladies and gentlemen, none of those things are true. None of them. None of them. And so this shock jock attempt to try to redo history by somebody who did not know Tupac, wasn't near Tupac. Like I said, once again, ladies and gentlemen, you know, for the people just joining in, what's up, family? Like I said, appreciate you guys. Your boy Delray Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV, where we separate facts from fiction and truth from clickbait, ladies and gentlemen. The people who are having Jeff Pearlman on their platform, like I say, once again, know certain things. And you know what? You know the disingenuous part about it is they can talk about Tupac, and then when somebody else says something about him that's black, right? When I said something about Tupac, Gullible John and Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., right? They came and they was trying to get it. They had Jeff Pearlman on their show talking about Tupac couldn't shoot a gun. Then they put up the video Tupac at the gun range, and Jeff Pearlman simply, he melted. He basically melted. He never addressed it. Oh, that was just a stupid statement from me, right? No, it was irresponsible, but more importantly, it was a lie. It wasn't accurate. It wasn't the truth. You've never been around Tupac for nothing. Point blank, period. Right? So like I said, today's topic, ladies and gentlemen, another author Jeff Pearlman and his book, a new book, Only God Can Judge Me, The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur. I'm going to say it like this. Only Tupac knows the truth. The many lies of Jeff Pearlman. Simple. Like I said, I just showed you 2 lies that he told that he don't know what he's talking about. These are quotes taken directly from his mouth. So I can say that, right? Now let me tell you, this man didn't write a biography, ladies and gentlemen. He wrote a fan fiction dressed up as research. You hear me? He didn't write a biography. He wrote a fan fiction dressed up as research. He's claiming Tupac wore skirts, kissed boys, and lived a secret life of confusion. Huh? But what's the real truth, ladies and gentlemen? What's the real truth? Let's break it down how this so-called new biography isn't a revelation. It's a misrepresentation of one of the greatest minds and spirits in the hip hop history. Point blank, period. That's why Jeff Pearlman chose to take this on, because he thought that he could come in and repaint and rewrite a legend story, but we not having it. We simply not having it, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we need to talk to, what's the boy name? Seth Bloom. Yeah, he need to get on the podcast or something. We need to find out if he really exists. The young lady from the song that he's claimed he got back with from Brenda's Got a Baby, the real life people, we need them on podcasts now speaking about how Jeff Pearlman saved the day. We need them on. Yes, we do. Absolutely. Because like I said, once again, after that statement that he made in regards to Tupac couldn't shoot, you know, he couldn't fight, he wasn't athletic, or none of those things, knowing all of those were lies, like I said, you only get one chance to lie to me before I don't believe nothing you saying. You got to understand that, ladies and gentlemen. Listen. And like I said, he's claiming in his book, Tupac wore skirts, kissed boys, and lived a secret life of confusion. But what's the real truth? Let's break it down. How this so-called new biography isn't a revelation. It's a misrepresentation of one of the greatest minds and spirits in hip-hop history, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like button, hit the share button. Let them know we over here, man, and what we talking about. Because I've seen a lot of people out here commenting like, yeah, a great book and all of this. And they haven't even read the book. They haven't even read it. I haven't read it. All I'm looking at is these little incendiary or salacious little punchlines from the book. These alleged quotes from the book from people who claim that they knew Tupac and was one of Tupac's best friends and all of these other things, right? Listen, what Jeff Pearlman is claiming in this new book, right? Pearlman leans on old classmates, ladies and gentlemen. He's leaning on old classmates, gossip, right? And what he calls creative portraits to say Tupac dressed in cheerleader outfits, wore nail polish, and kissed male classmates during truth or dare games. This is what's being alleged in this book of fiction, ladies and gentlemen, right? He quotes a man named Seth Bloom, who, let's be honest, never said, listen, y'all. He quotes a man by the name of Seth Bloom, who, let's be honest, never said any of this public while Tupac was alive. None of these claims surfaced during Tupac's lifetime. Not in interviews, not in court, not in the studio sessions, not even among people closest to him, not even in Jada Pinkett's book. Ladies and gentlemen, we know Jada Pinkett went to the School of Arts, the Baltimore School of Arts with Tupac Shakur, correct? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, right? And listen, and that's the problem, right? That's the biggest problem of it all, right? When you can't question the source, listen to me, y'all. When you can't question the source, when the subject isn't alive to respond, it's open season for storytellers. Jeff Pearlman is a storyteller, right? You see what I'm saying? He knows nothing about this culture, man. I've talked to, hundreds of people. No, I talked to the guy at the restaurant, and I talked to the guy that worked for the restaurant, and Tupac was trying to talk to this girl who worked at the restaurant, and he was da-da-da-da-da. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't know if none of that's true. We don't know who he talked to, right? Like I said he spoke to Setua. And so, I spoke to Seth. He's saying Setua name like they like that. Like, I spoke to Seth, Seth, I call her Setua. That's her name. You understand what I'm saying? But he running around like, assuming comfortability with her name and who she was and all of these other things, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I want y'all to understand. This is open season for storytellers, y'all. Open season for, listen. I'm gonna bring you back there. Thank you, Jersey Rick. I appreciate that. But more importantly, let's talk about this photo Jeff Pearlman and the blogs are not using. See, because they don't have a photo. Did you see any photo of Tupac in any kind of makeup? So now let's talk about the photo Jeff Pearlman and the blogs are not using versus this one right here. See? Versus this one right here, ladies and gentlemen. Look. You see this one right here? No pink fingernails, no black fingernails, no stripe in the hair, no none of that. You see this one right here? Tupac looking jazzy for the day. You know what I mean? Look like it's probably about September, November rolling around. He got the scarf around his neck. He looking sharp, ladies and gentlemen. None of what Jeff Pearlman, like I said, this is the picture that we're using, or the pictures we're using to debunk any and everything that he said in regards to Tupac Shakur, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to understand that. Check this out now. Watch this. So when you understand that, where's the picture that Jeff Pearlman is using to show us what he described in his book? right? There is none. So now let's talk about the photo that Jeff Pearlman and the blogs are using. There is none, ladies and gentlemen. The one right here. The one right here I just showed you. The one right here. You see Tupac, right? Listen, look, check this out. You see it right here once again. I got to go back to it, y'all. You see it right here. Tupac what? What Tupac doing? Tupac standing by the lockers, right? At the Baltimore School of the Arts with Jada Pinkett and another classmate. That photo doesn't show any of what Jeff Pearlman is describing in his book. No cheerleader outfits, no skirts, no pom-poms, none of that. Just 3 young artists, Jada Pinkett, Tupac, and some other young man, teenagers in art school, posing like students in the 1980s in Baltimore, ladies and gentlemen. You understand what I'm saying? Once again, but guess what? That wouldn't have attempted to sell his book. See, he couldn't keep it 100. Why didn't he go to Jada Pinkett? Jada Pinkett was the other source of Baltimore School of the Arts. From all of the pictures that I saw, it was Jada, these other 2 young ladies right here. Yeah. Yeah, hold on. What are the other 2 young ladies at? Right here. That scene who Tupac was kicking it with. Yeah. There's another, if you look at like I say, if you look at the thumbnail, you're going to see a couple of other photos, right? In which, like I said, I put up there. More importantly, like I said, you don't dig a Tupac fingernails, hugging the girl, right? Ain't no pink fingernail and polish or nothing like that. Pom-poms or nothing like that. Right? Jeff Pearlman's Tupac book of fiction. Right? The lies, the photo that doesn't exist. None of that. We have yet to see any of that. Right? You know the sad part? Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. had played some audio of Suge Knight because Jeff Pearlman decided to go over on Bums First. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. paid some audio of Suge Knight, and Suge Knight says about something somebody alleged that he said in regards to Tupac in jail, talking about Tupac was assaulted or something like that. Suge Knight said on that tape, it didn't happen, right? Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. tried to say that he said did. You can clearly listen to it and you can hear him say didn't. Okay, so they were talking about that on Bums First. And Jeff Pearlman said, well, yeah, you know, I verified that Tupac wasn't assaulted in jail. Ladies and gentlemen, I discussed this with Billy Garland. Jeff Pearlman never went to any kind of jail to see Tupac in real time. During the time he was doing, I discussed this with also William Lassane, Tupac's cousin. He never said anything in regards to nothing like that. The last interview I did with him on the Art of Dialogue, we talked about that very thing, ladies and gentlemen. And Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. would sit there, you know, tap dancing, if you will, right? Hucking and bucking, you know, old Huckabuck, right? He over there hugging. Yeah, Jeff, I'm glad that you can clarify that. I'm glad that you did the research. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then William Lassane comes on the show and asks for a signed autographed book, right? I don't know if William Lassane gave an interview for this book, but Will, you got it. This right here, none of this is confirmed. And as you sat on there and asked politely and was respectful and asking for a book, Jeff Pearlman knew in the back of his mind that this garbage right here, this fiction that I'm going to call it, was in that book. He knew as he was sitting there talking to you on the what's the name. That's why he rarely said anything. Go back and look at the video. Go back and look at it. You understand what I'm saying? So like I said, once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's fiction. It's fiction. None of what we see from pictures from Jada, from pictures from School of Art, Baltimore School of Arts represents anything. Anything. Like I said, Jeff Pearlman is going around trying to say that he discovered an undisclosed grave of Tupac Shakur. And he was bragging about it. Now everybody's going to go down there to see the grave because I said something about it. It was already there. And the people that knew already knew it was there. You took a picture of it and you put it in your book, and now you discover. He didn't discover nothing. He's not Christopher Columbus. We're not letting you do it. It's just as simple as that. We're not letting you do it. No. For the real people who understand, like I said, Edie. Hey, Edie, Napoleon. Hey, you understand what I'm saying? Come on now. Come on now. This guy never met Tupac. He never spent time with him. He's going around bringing up stuff that somebody alleged to say we don't even know they exist. Talking about him and the Seth Bloom, talking about him and Tupac's relationship was intense. Are you kidding me? Tupac ain't say nothing about nothing like that in his childhood. Absolutely, he exploited it. It's exploitation at the highest level. Right? You got people out here co-signing the book. They haven't even read it. They just probably know that they did an interview when he came up and with the smiling face, like, hey man, I'm doing an interview about Tupac, man, a book about Tupac. I'm a best-selling author, number one, right? Not knowing that he was planning on trying to destroy the character and the legacy of Tupac Shakur with these fictional fairy tales, if you will. Fictional fairy tales, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, once again, what else? The police report. Did he put the police report in the book? I don't know. Somebody tell me if you bought the book. I'm recommending that you not buy it. Don't support anything like this. Point blank, period. Yeah, I'm recommending that you do not waste not one dime, not one red cent. Tupac would not appreciate that. Tupac talked about this. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen, because there's people that Tupac did talk to and do interviews with, right? Brother Powell, who did the Vibe interview, right? Right? Rob Marriott, who actually did the last interview of Tupac before he passed, right? Ladies and gentlemen, there are people who did interviews. The young lady, what's her name? The young lady who did the Vibe interview, him sitting on the couch, who worked for Vibe at the time, where Tupac simply sits there and talks about him being shot 5 times, despite Jeff Pearlman coming out and saying that was a myth, that Tupac being shot 5 times was a myth. He's coming 30 years later. He's 30-year Johnny lately talking about Tupac, what he said him being shot 5 times is a myth. Also, the sister in New York, on the radio, the Latino sister, Angie Martinez. Angie Martinez did a great interview with Tupac that everybody has been wanting to hear, that she said she never released based on the fact that it was so explosive, you know what I mean, at that particular time, doing the East and West Coast thing, if you will, right? There are people who actually sat down and talked. We're listening to people like that. We're not listening to Jeff Pearlman. He comes in, he's like, I did research. No. We don't believe you. You need more people. We need to see these people. Yeah, you got to bring them on there with you. See, that would really make your book sell in. If you can bring these people on that you talked about, that you interviewed, making these statements, Seth Bloom and all of these other people, that we never heard from, never made these statements when Tupac was alive. Oh, we need to hear from them. Absolutely. That boy, your book will really truly, honestly be a bestseller if we can hear it from their mouth. Yeah, you should sit them up, prop them up right next to you on your next couple of interviews and come on out and see what they do it. I bet you they won't. I guarantee you they won't. Right? Like I said, once again, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this is Tupac fiction. This is storytelling. This is not based on the Tupac Amaru Shakur that we know. Right? Like I said, once again, and anybody that feels like that they can, come up and represent what they say, hey, come on out. Like I said, I would love to see the guy that he said that he got back with his mother that was from the Brenda's Got a Baby song. That was the song Tupac wrote. Because at the end of the song, like I said, from what Tupac wrote, am I wrong? If you can correct me if I'm wrong, he said, prostitute found slain and Brenda's her name. She got a baby, right? So in the song, she dies. But Jeff Pearlman said that, he brought her back to life. He seen her and he got in touch with her, some DNA thing. Like I said, once again, We need to hear that story. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? So like I said, once again, so the photo that they're not presenting, there is no photo, right? Right? Of Tupac in any kind of pink pom-poms, skirts or whatever they talked about. Absolutely not, ladies and gentlemen, right? And then, like I said, Jeff Pearlman then chimes in, and what does he say again? So he basically, listen, this is the part that trips me up the most is, when somebody wants to take somebody's word at face value, and they just like, they don't really say. Jeff Pearlman says, listen, the young man Seth Bloom said it was his belief. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, when somebody tells you that they believe something, right? It's his belief. When somebody believes something, and I'm going to show you how that what Seth Bloom is saying is really not true in fact, but he's saying it was my belief. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give it to you like this, right? This guy Seth Bloom, who said that he was openly a gay. Like I said, I don't have nothing against gay people, whatever, anything. I'm reading actually. He said, the tension where you hold a glare for a second or two too long, or touch someone longer than normal. Now, this is Seth Bloom talking about how he feel, ladies and gentlemen. This ain't talking about how Tupac felt. Once again, you see what I'm saying? He's saying, listen, he's saying to allegedly to Jeff Pearlman, he's saying, that sexual tension where you hold a glare a second or too long, or you touch someone longer than normal. No, we're not familiar with that. I'm familiar with that as far as a woman is concerned, but I don't know about, what no other man. You understand what I'm saying? He said, Seth Bloom said that was Tupac. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna put you on point. This is what Seth Bloom is saying. So now, when he says this, right, that was Tupac. Then the very next sentence he says shows me that it didn't really happen. Because I want you to understand. Because if all of what he's saying is true, he said my belief. He said my belief is, right? He was somewhere between heterosexual and bisexual, ladies and gentlemen. Are you kidding me? His belief. Whenever there's belief, there's doubt. When when somebody say, I know that this person was X, Y, and Z. When you say you believe, it tells me you don't know. And like I said, this guy, Seth Bloom, was explaining his feelings, not Tupac's. Right? Because of his sexual orientation. And like I said, I want to be clear. I have nothing against gay people, the LGBTQ community, or any of that. I'm reading and talking about something that is written in regards to Tupac Shakur that Tupac Shakur himself never expressed. This is somebody else coming out 32 years later talking about that he never mentioned or said when Tupac was alive. Ladies and gentlemen, right? So like I said, once again, when they're talking about all of these other things, the photos that I showed you don't show any of these things. Listen, so why does Jeff Pearlman frame it differently? The question, I want you to understand this. Listen, these photos right here shows none of what Jeff Pearlman's book says about Tupac. No pom-poms, no pink stripe or stripe with bleach down his hair. No, none of that, right? This right here, look. Him and Jada with the scarf on, the jacket on, chilling, kicking it. You know what I mean? Shows none of that. None of that. So I got to ask a question, ladies and gentlemen. I got to ask a question. So why does Jeff Pearlman frame it differently? Why does he frame with all of this stuff in his book differently? We know the obvious reasons, right? Because when you can't add evidence, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. When you can't add evidence, you add imagination. He calls it artistic context. And that's an actual quote. He calls it artistic context. I call it fiction. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Pearlman calls it artistic context. You know, that word salad. You know, when people, try to use, well, I call it, and then kind of schmoozes it over, right? I call it artistic context. I call it fiction. And a lot of people that I know, right, looking at this, who knew Tupac Shakur was around him, call it fiction also. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. You can't find nobody in life, as Tupac was a grown adult, to make any accusation like this, ladies and gentlemen. Any accusation. Like I said, once again, the character assassination through artistic freedom, ladies and gentlemen. This is character assassination through artistic freedom, right? What Jeff Pearlman is really doing here is what we call character assassination through revisionism. You hear me? I'm going to say it one more time, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't think y'all heard me, man. I'm going to give it to you one more time. This is called character assassination through revisionism. Taking pieces of the truth and bending them for engagement. Taking pieces of the truth and bending it so people can engage. He says, and this is the cold part. This is the manipulation attempt to manipulate people who might want to respond to what he said. This is what he actually said in the article, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this. He says, anyone who makes a big deal out of what he's saying about Tupac is an idiot. He said anybody who makes a big deal about what he's saying about Tupac's, all of these fictitious allegations, he said anyone who makes a big deal is an idiot. Ladies and gentlemen, but there's one thing. And here's the thing. He's the one turning it into a big deal by putting it in his book. You see the manipulation there? You see the mind fuckery, right? He got you feeling like, anybody respond to this, man, y'all are idiot. He looking around. Did I get him with that comment? Did I get him? I'm hoping somebody, they don't respond, I'm hoping they don't, did I get him? Nah, that don't work on us. Not for the intelligent ones. Like I said, once again, I'm telling you because he asked me for an interview and I told him no. He asked Billy Garland for an interview and Billy Garland told him no. He probably tried to reach out for Jada and Jada wasn't having it simply. She wasn't having it. Like she probably looked at him like, who is this guy? And why do he want to write a book on Tupac, ladies and gentlemen? It took Jada Pinkett 20 some odd years. And Jada Pinkett and Tupac was cooler than polar bear toenails, man, together, right? Yeah, they was like that. Tupac explained that. Tupac said, that's my heart. He said, I would give her my last lung, ladies and gentlemen, right? So now it took Jada Pinkett just a year ago, 2 years ago to write her book. And once he seen that, he read her book. He was like, oh, I could do, probably a fiction, a piece of fiction on Tupac. What you say, chat? Absolutely. We not buying that. Nobody in this chat, nobody that looks at the Art of Dialogue is buying that book. Art of Dialogue got over almost 1 million subscribers. None of them people are going to support that. Point blank, period. We didn't already put the word out, man. No, No. Like I said, next thing you know, they're going to be doing some kind of project based on this book, right? And they're going to be using the stuff that's in the book and saying, oh, well, it must be true because it came from Seth. It must be true because it came from such and such. Nah, once again, they said none of this when Tupac was alive. That's like anybody coming out and saying anything. No proof. There's no proof, ladies and gentlemen. There's no proof. So like I said, when you can't prove it, right? When there's no proof, right? And like I said, the sad part when he said anyone who makes a big deal about this is an idiot. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the one that wrote the book. Right? So here's the thing. If he's the one that wrote the book, then he's the one making the big deal of it, right or wrong. If all hip hop wrote an article about it, who's making the big deal about it? He just don't want to be confronted because he really doesn't have answers. Just like the other day when he was saying the stuff about Tupac, couldn't shoot a gun, couldn't fight, wasn't athletic, all of these things. About somebody he didn't know. So nobody I know is supporting the book, point blank, period. And like I said, other people are having them on their platform just for content. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's a no-go. That's a no-go. Ladies and gentlemen, as a matter of fact, I'm going to share something with you because I've been sharing this with my fans and I've been sharing it with my folks. Like I said, this is what you call real content from somebody. And I would only do this, like I said, this is what you call real content from somebody who really did spend time with Tupac. Ladies and gentlemen, check this out. Don't go nowhere. I'm not finished yet.
They said Tupac was untouchable. But behind the walls of Rikers Island, he was just a man, wounded, watching his back, and wondering who he could trust. He survived bullets, betrayal, and isolation behind bars. But what happened inside those walls has never been told until now. In the darkest corner of Rikers, he found betrayal and a brotherhood no one saw coming. These dudes smiled in my face, then flipped and tried to kill me, and I never saw it coming. They were Puff's security, Biggie's muscle, Henchman's people, and Tupac knew exactly who sent them. This is the side of Tupac Shakur the world never got to see, told by the man who lived it with him, not in the studio, but in a 6x9 cell. The rap battles, sex and drama with female guards, the tears, the silence after Jada Pinkett's visit, and the moment Tupac almost broke. Before Death Row, before All Eyes on Me, before Machiavelli, there was Rikers. Behind the Walls with Tupac Shakur, available now on Amazon. Get your copy. Learn the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time on that one. But like I said, once again, that book right there, right? Behind the Walls with Tupac Shakur, that's based on real information. Somebody who was really in jail with Tupac telling you about everything that went down. Once again, another thing, Donald Richardson, and he's no relation to me, right? We just happen to, by chance, carry the same name. Never met him in my life before until, we got in contact. I actually did the interview with him over on the Art of Dialogue. Also, you can go check out the whole interview. And he'll tell you simply what his experience was with Tupac when Tupac came through Rikers Island. Donald Richardson was somebody who did 25 years in and out of New York State penitentiaries, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Like I said, this is the real ground up stories from what it is. And we talked about also the situation with somebody, assaulting Tupac. Tupac actually, listen, ladies and gentlemen, because Jeff Pearlman seen this interview. He talks about Tupac and him getting into an altercation. And then Tupac ultimately putting, Donald Richardson said, Tupac put him in a chokehold, right? And Tupac had him and Tupac got the best of him. He said that Tupac couldn't fight. Tupac is in Rikers Island, ladies and gentlemen, holding his own. One of the toughest state prisons in the country. But Jeff Pearlman would come out of his mouth. Like, look, I'm talking about somebody who actually been, but Jeff Pearlman would come out of his mouth, right? And say this. Right? He would come out his mouth and say this. Come on, y'all. This is why I call it fiction. Right? This is why I call it fiction. Right? So we got to understand and know what it actually is. And call it what it is when we see it. You can't, like I said, once again, they're coming out, they're trying to rewrite and put all of these things in the play involving Tupac's life. And they're parading this guy, Jeff Pearlman, around as the guy who was willing to do it. Right? We know that when you get a book deal, the publisher cuts you a check, right? He was the guy who was willing to go around and do it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that it is fiction based on what I show you and otherwise. So check it out, right? You got to understand something, y'all. Let's remember, Tupac's entire life and work celebrated expression, creativity, vulnerability, fearlessness, but never confusion. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, but never confusion about who he was. Tupac's art didn't need to be sensationalized to sell copies. When he did All Eyes on Me, Tupac talked about what was going on. His feelings, ambitions as a rider. Wonder why they call you bitch, right? You understand? And so on and so forth, right? His work didn't need to be sensationalized. Brenda's Got a Baby, a Dear Mama, right? Shed So Many Tears, right? He talked about all of that. He didn't need Jeff Pearlman to come out and tell us what Brenda Got a Baby meant. Tupac already told us. He explained the song. He explained walking up into Interscope and waiting on Jimmy Iovine. Them. He already explained. He didn't need Jeff Pearlman to come out and give his reiteration of what Tupac said. Right? Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to understand this. Tupac's art did not need to be sensationalized to sell any copies. He came out of jail and sold 5 million copies in 3 months. Point blank, period. So when you distort a man's legacy, listen to me. When you try to distort a man's legacy to sell books, you're not documenting history. You're profiting from controversy. Point blank, period, y'all. I'm going to say it again. When you try to distort Tupac's legacy to sell books, you're not documenting history. You're profiting off of controversy. But nobody here is buying the book. I recommend that you not buy this book. I recommend you not buy it. Like I said, once again, we already know what it is. I'm not, and the crazy part is that, so much has been, and when you deal with the bigger picture of what it is, like I said, you got to look at these people, the people that are promoting and pushing this narrative, ladies and gentlemen, the media outlets that are pushing this narrative, right? If and usually, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to tell you something that I know for a fact, right? When you understand this, news media outlets don't really push stories unless they corroborate them. Because I remember I did a story when the first thing when I talked about the Tupac thing and the copyright and all of that situation, and I was on the front of the newspaper, right? The first thing the reporter wanted to do, the reporter wanted to talk to my partner and to confirm whether the story that I was telling them was true. So that's how I know that this agenda is being pushed by somebody. Because there's no confirmation of information. We need to see Seth Bloom. We need to talk to Seth Bloom. Seth Bloom needs to be on some kind of somebody's podcast, y'all. Yeah, we need to see Seth Bloom on somebody's podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed. We need to see that. Because like I said, right, when you try to distort Tupac's legacy to sell books, you're not documenting history. You're profiting from controversy. And that's basically it, right? Listen, Tupac's real story, right? For all of the people who've been around and who know and understand Tupac's real story, Tupac was an artist who embraced duality, masculine and sensitive, right? He embraced that, you know what I mean? To be able to write a record like a Dear Mama, you know what I mean? To be able to write a record like Brenda's Got a Baby, you got to take yourself to a different place. So Tupac embraced duality, masculinity, and sensitivity, revolutionary, and he was reflective about his own situation, about his own life, and telling the truth about what went on in his own family and some of the hardships and things, right? He wrote poetry for women, not gossip for tabloids. He didn't do that, right? He said the media in my business all acting like they know me, right? Ain't that what he say? Right? His letters to Jada Pinkett, his interviews with Vibe, his conversations with his father, Billy Garland, right? Like I said, they all show authenticity, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff Pearlman is running around saying that he found an undisclosed grave that belonged to Tupac Shakur in Lumberton, North Carolina, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't discover anything, y'all. It was already there. It's been there for years. Afeni basically planted a plaque as a memorial to her son. Something that she could hold on to. It wasn't for everybody to know, but Jeff Pearlman decided to exploit it in his book to make his book seem like he knew something or found out something that nobody else knew about, ladies and gentlemen. Point blank, period. And now he got some people out here talking about, yeah, Tupac used to wear pom-poms and skirts in school. And the pictures that I showed you, ladies and gentlemen, say nothing of the sort. And this is from the Baltimore School of the Arts guy named Seth Bloom, talking about and one of Tupac's closest friends. Him and Tupac's relationship was intense and all of this. And Tupac kissed him and boys and something. And I know I wasn't the only boy he kissed, but he doesn't give any detail in regards to that. None. Ladies and gentlemen, according to me and what I understand and what I know, it's fiction because there's no proof. Seth didn't come out and say that when Tupac was alive. Point blank, period. And the only reason, like I said, Jeff Pearlman probably got the names. He read Jada Pinkett's book because I'm sure if Jada talked about the Baltimore School of the Arts, she probably mentioned this guy's name. Like I said, I'm not sure, but she probably did. You know what I mean? Also, like I said, I'm going to take you back there one more time. Look, check it out. No pom-poms, no skirts, no fingernail polish, ladies and gentlemen. No pink eyeshadow, no none of that. Jeff Pearlman basically tried to dress Tupac up as some kind of cross-dresser or something like that in this book. And like I said, the imagery, the imagination, and wanting you to use that, wanting you to see that in Tupac, right? Right. Because it's fiction. Ladies and gentlemen, it is pure fiction. And we're not buying it. We're not buying it, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, look. Do you see any kind of fingernail polish on Tupac's finger right there? None. Zero. Zip. We need to see pictures of what Jeff Pearlman is talking about, but he has none. All he has is words, right? All he has is words. And those words do not represent anything that is truthful and factual about what we see with our own eyes. Point blank. Like I said, once again. So when you think about it, in one interview, listen to me, ladies and gentlemen, in one interview, Tupac said, they try to take everything about me and make it something ugly. Y'all remember that interview Tupac did? Tupac said, they tried to take everything about me and make it something ugly. These are Tupac's words, y'all. Tupac understood even in death and in life that when he died, like I said, like he told Rob Marriott, he said, you're going to have these authors and reporters coming trying to write books about my life and blah, blah, blah. Here we are. Tupac predicted the future. But he also said in one interview, like I said, they tried to take everything about me and make it something ugly. I need y'all to let that sink in for a minute. And here, listen, and here we are in 2025. They're still doing it, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff Pearlman claims to love and respect Tupac while rewriting him as something he was not. That's not love. That's literary exploitation, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to say it one more time. Here in 2005, right? After Tupac said in one interview They tried to take everything about me and make it something ugly. And here in 2025, they're still doing it, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff Pearlman claims to love and respect Tupac, someone he never met. So how can you love and respect somebody you never met? I don't know, but that's what he's claiming, right? Another fictional statement, right? While Tupac, while claiming that he loved and respect Tupac, right? While rewriting him as something Tupac was not. This is what Jeff Pearlman is doing. That's not love. It's literary exploitation at the highest level. At the highest level. Like I said, you got to stand for something, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you why this matters. You know, for the people who don't really understand why this matters. This isn't about sexuality. This is about integrity. It's not about sexuality. It's about integrity. Like I said, I don't care what you are, what you represent, you know, who you love. That's your business. You know what I mean? But this is not about sexuality. What I'm talking, this is about integrity. This is about protecting truth in an era where false stories travel faster than the real ones, y'all. You see? This is about truth in an era where false stories travel faster than the real ones. Tupac's legacy belongs to the culture. The people who supported him, bought his records, went to his concerts, right? All of those people who helped build him to where he became the legend that he is. To his family, to his fans, and those who carry his message. This doesn't belong to no opportunistic writers chasing headlines. Jeff Pearlman is chasing headlines, ladies and gentlemen. I've seen 5 of them this week. Ladies and gentlemen. He's chasing headlines. It does not belong. Tupac's legacy, right? Or nothing about him belongs to an opportunistic writer who's chasing headlines to try to sell a book and making statements of fiction out here, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, when you rewrite Tupac, right, you rewrite a generation's truth. You understand that? In trying to rewrite Tupac, you write a whole generation's, you rewrite a whole generation's truth. And like I said, somebody who knew Tupac, had conversations with him, hung out with him, I can't let that happen, man. Anybody else, they can do what they feel like they want to do. You know what I mean? If you interview with the guy and when he came to you and he was playing nice and all of that, if you interview with him, okay, that's what you chose to do. That's no, like I said, because a lot of people probably didn't know that this is what he was going to do in trying to sell his book. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, them talking about, yeah, we're going to do this new movie. Somebody picking up the book saying, we're going to do this new movie on Tupac and start from like the beginning and have Tupac in a scene where he talking about he kissing somebody in the truth of dare. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Now that his mama's gone, right? You know, like I said, and him saying he interviewed with Sexual. I don't think Sexual thought he was going to do this. I would hope she didn't. Or hope that, you know, before any kind of book was released, that she got some kind of proofread to read it, to see what it, you know what I mean, what he was going to put out about her brother. But she couldn't really stop that anyway. But those are some of the things that I would have asked for. Like, hold on, before we go there, let me see what you putting out about my brother. You know what I mean? To see if I can fully get behind this and endorse this garbage. Right? Like I said, when you rewrite a Tupac, you rewrite a generation's truth, ladies and gentlemen. And here on Straight Game TV, and me being who I am and knowing the brother, like I said, once again, I never seen none of those things. I've seen Tupac get it in, you know what I mean? And be a boss player, point blank, period. Right? Come on now. Like I said, so I'm going to end it like this, ladies and gentlemen. You know, don't let a modern storytellers bury our heroes and bury the people that we look up to. Don't let these modern storytellers who had nothing to do with our culture, nothing to do with none of that, right, come and try to bury our heroes. They can go deal with the people that they think that are their heroes and talk about them from whatever perspective. Even if they're the estates or the family members or fans let them do that to them. Like I said, once again, but Jeff Pearlman didn't know Tupac, right? Kevin Powell, who wrote the Vibe article, Kevin Powell knew Tupac, right? We can listen to Kevin Powell, right? Rob Marriott knew Tupac. We can listen to Rob Marriott. We listening to what he's saying, right? Angie Martinez talked to Tupac. We can listen to what Angie Martinez is saying, right? But Jeff Pearlman is out here. He got articles talking about, like I said, once again, this is how you know he's going for headlines. The article says what? Tupac wore skirt with pom-poms and kissed boys, claims new biography. That ain't nothing but a salacious headline, ladies and gentlemen. Means to get clicks and views. None of it's true. And like I showed you the photos from Tupac at the Baltimore School of Arts, because that's where they were alleging that this took place. You see Tupac with none of those things. No pink eyeshadow, black fingernail polish, none of the things that they talked about. We've seen Tupac in none of those photos showing nothing like that, ladies and gentlemen. Even when he got the Gumby haircut when he was going to Tavern Pine High School, ladies and gentlemen, you know what I mean? That wasn't it, right? Like I said, once again. And let me run this by you, right? Tupac told his truth while he was here, y'all. Y'all know that. For the people who know, Tupac told his truth while he was here. In his interviews, in his lyrics, in his actions, he didn't need a ghostwriter for his life. Jeff Pearlman is trying to play ghostwriter in regards to Tupac's life. Tupac didn't need a ghostwriter. He wrote all his own lyrics, ladies and gentlemen. That's a fact. I had Jay Flex on here too, who wrote California Love with Tupac. Yeah, that's confirmation of information. They were in the studio at the same time, and Pac went in there and wrote the lyrics and crushed it, according to Jay Flex, who actually wrote Dr. Dre's part. You can look at the interview on my channel, ladies and gentlemen, right? So Jeff Pearlman, if you truly respected Tupac, you'd let his words speak for him, not yours. Point blank. If you truly respected Tupac, you would let his words speak for him and not yours. Or somebody else now making some kind of allegations or telling some kind of story that they didn't tell when Tupac was alive, ladies and gentlemen. So like I said, the young lady said, what'd she say? Young lady said, people who knew Tupac, listen, this is how they tried to jazz it up, y'all. They tried to jazz it up. It's like, people who knew Tupac in high school loved the way he dressed, especially at the Baltimore School for the Arts. Jeff Pearlman told hip hop. So this is not, listen. I want you to understand how slick Jeff Pearlman is. Listen, this is a quote. Listen, from him. Just listen. Jeff, people who knew Tupac in high school loved the way he dressed, especially at the Baltimore School of the Arts. Jeff Pearlman told All Hip Hop. That's a quote from him. He said that. He didn't go to the Baltimore School of the Arts, right? He said he would show up. Listen, it says he would show up with nail polish on his fingers. He had a peroxide yellow strip running through his hair. He spray painted his jeans, and he would show up most days drinking water out of a baby bottle. This is what this says, y'all. He was just really eccentric and artistry, ladies and gentlemen. Did you hear what I just said? Say former classmates, listen, described Shakur as bold and uninhibited, often pushing boundaries in both style and behavior. During Spirit Week in 1988, he walked through the cafeteria in a full red and white and blue cheerleader uniform, a skirt, shoes, and pom-poms included. Ladies and gentlemen, we ain't seen no pictures of that, y'all. We ain't seen no pictures of that. I haven't seen no pictures of it. I'm going to show you, like I said, in the description of how he would come to school with a peroxide yellow strip. You know, hold on, peroxide yellow strip. Like, hold on, it wasn't bleached? How we know it wasn't bleached? But a peroxide yellow strip, right? Running through his hair, spray painted on his jeans, and all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Before I step away, does that look like Tupac? That's him at the Baltimore School of the Arts right here, y'all. That's him right there, right? Look at the girls all up on him. Come on, man. Ain't no Seth Bloom in this picture. That's Shaquita and Janiyah right there. That's a joke. That's not really their name. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying in that sense, right? With them with the bang hair dudes from the 80s, y'all. Look. Hold on. Let's go there. Look. That's him and Jada right there, the Baltimore School of the Arts. Where's Seth Bloom at? Right? Huh? Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to be bamboozled. We're not going to be led astray. We're not going to be fooled, and we're not going to be lied to. Right? We see none of what was described in that article, and that statement. People who knew Tupac in high school loved the way he dressed, especially at the Baltimore School of Arts. Jeff Pearlman told All Hip Hop. This is something he's saying. He would show up with nail polish on his fingers. This is what Jeff is saying, right? Who does he attribute this quote to, right? It says Jeff Pearlman told All Hip Hop. They got Tupac fingernails, y'all. You see black fingernail polish? Do you see polish on his fingernails? You don't, ladies and gentlemen. You don't. You don't. It's just as simple as that, y'all. Right? And like I said, so if Jeff Pearlman really was concerned about Tupac, which he's really not, he's trying to sell his book. Like I said, if you respected Tupac, you'd let his words speak for him, not yours. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I thank you, each and every one of you guys, for tuning in. It is always my pleasure. My pleasure. Shout out to the chat. EJ. Who else? Brent. Jay Edwards. ARE Radio. Lateef. Brooke Dawn. Michelle. What's that? Michelle the Mac K. Fatima Barrett, always a pleasure. Thank you for your assistance. You can hit the like button, hit the share button, ladies and gentlemen. Let them know we are over here spreading nothing but straight game, truth, and fact. I wouldn't even say speaking truth to power, because the power of Tupac is reigning through, like I said once again, but like I said, his words will always shine through. Not my words. Tupac words will always shine through, ladies and gentlemen. What's Funk Neat? Who else? D in the building. Was that D18? Or D81 Cash? What's happening? Stony? Like I said, and all of the other people who are outside of the chat, we appreciate your time, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your time. Your boy Delray, straight gang.
Life is like some cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother